Greetings, everyone, friends, family, folks in general. My name is Don Slickty. I'm a resident of Rio Rancho, New Mexico. I pastored largely here for 33 years, 2000, or that was 1980 through 2013. Retired here in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. Also did many side businesses along the way to support my family, mostly in construction, roofing, and rehabbing houses, flipping houses, that type of thing. And I was on the local school board from the year 2000 to 2016, serving 8 of those years as its president. And that was a great experience for me and community service that I wanted to participate in. And so that was really great. Um, I'm not really retired. I still work. My son continues to flip houses, and when he gets one, I help him. So I'm part-time retired, I guess you might say. But I'm not retired at all, really, because I'm very interested in what's happening in our country and to our country on many levels: financial, spiritual, political. And um, after this brief introduction, I want to introduce a topic to you, and it's urgent, and it's why I'm doing it right now. It's titled Brakes and Blinkers: God's Signaling System, or God's System to Signal Us. Um, when I went to work about a week ago, there's a I-85, the interstate goes through Albuquerque, and then there's a Gibson Street or avenue runs underneath it. And when I'm done working, I get over in the far right lane, and then I have to curl around to get up on the overpass and then go I-25 north. But also the people that are going south on I-25, they have to curl off, and we both end up in the same lane. Okay, that right lane there, and it gets really dicey. And without blinkers and brake lights, there would be accidents every day at that overpass because of that unique situation. I think it's an old style. It's not as smooth as some of the newer interchanges, but it made me think about how when we drive vehicles, we use blinkers and brake lights to signal where we're going and what our intention is. And it's actually a great system. And if you notice, all the blinkers and brake lights are red and kind of the same position. I think there's laws about that, and it's for a good reason, because it's safer. It makes traffic smoother. Even if you're on a freeway like in LA, where they have 5 or 6 lanes, all of a sudden you're looking, and it's usually always busy, and you look ahead and you see a bunch of red start showing up, right, day or night, right? You know that okay, something's going on. It's traffic's slowing down. Everybody should start slowing down. And of course, in general, you take a right, take a left. You indicate to other drivers your intention. You signal them. And I want to share with you that I think God gives us signals. He gives us brakes and blinker lights to signal his intention, his activity, what he's doing, and where he's going. Now, that may sound kind of weird to some of you, but I have, since I retired from the ministry, I served in a more of a, I would call a non charismatic conservative evangelical denomination. And around 2015-16, in that era when Trump was running for president, a couple of gentlemen were prophetic by nature and were talking about Trump being a prophetic person, that they felt like he was a Cyrus of the Old Testament in Isaiah chapter 45. Cyrus is the king of Persia. Persia took over Babylon. Babylon had brought the Israelite captives to Babylon under Nebuchadnezzar. Well, they went through several generations of leaders there, and then the Persians took over, and Cyrus was their leader. And in Isaiah 45, it prophesies 150 years before Cyrus was even born. It prophesied that things that he would do for the Jewish people. And it was basically to open the door and lead the way and finance the captives, the Israelite captives in Babylon, back to Jerusalem to rebuild their city and finance it. Okay, so Cyrus played a really significant role in Old Testament history. But he wasn't a believer. He wasn't a God-fearing man. It even says in Isaiah 45. So you want to go back and read that chapter. When I heard that, though, I wasn't practiced in the prophetic, didn't teach you really about it, and didn't practice it, didn't know much about it. But it introduced me to the topic, right? And so I did. And I got a sense that maybe I had been missing out. It was one of the reasons I kind of retired early was I felt I wasn't fulfilled with my version of Christianity. Okay, my maybe my doctrines or my experience. I wasn't even totally sure, except I just didn't want to stay and collect a paycheck. I wanted more life and energy from my Christian experience. And so that led me into the prophetic. And now, over these last 10 years, uh, my experience has been that the prophetic, yes, it can be messy. People can miss it, their own biases, their own flesh. Some of us know that term from our Christian teaching. Our flesh, our biases, our, uh, our blueprints can get in the way of what God may be trying to speak through a prophet, and that happens. Okay, and then people tend to throw the baby out with the bathwater and just ignore it totally. And so, but I found that you've got to work through those things. And if you do, there can be a great benefit. And I believe that God has been signaling brakes and blinker lights. He's been signaling his intentions and where he's going and what he's doing and who some of the key players are, like Cyrus was in the Old Testament. And I want to pass that on to you, okay? And I want to tell you that my source is primarily Christian prophets. Now, I believe there's other non Christian secular people that are foreshadowing or foretelling about these things, but they don't source it from, say, God or Christ, okay? But the Christian prophets obviously do. So I'm going to pass on to you that God is indicating we are coming up to a transitional time in American history and world history of great magnitude. And we're transitioning into a new era. Okay, now I know there's many Christians that think what's coming is a rapture where things are going to get worse, 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 and then we're going to get raptured, taken up to heaven, and there's going to be a 7-year tribulation here on earth, and terrible things are going to go on before Christ comes to reign in the millennium for 1,000 years. Okay, I know you've been taught that. As I ministered over the decades, I around the year 2000, in that range, began to doubt that doctrine, and then in the last 10 years, I don't ascribe to that teaching at all, really. I think many end time scriptures apply to what happened in 70 AD in Jerusalem when it got destroyed. But I believe we're coming into that millennial era. Trump calls it a golden era or age, a new era, a kingdom era. Okay, and I believe it actually could be the millennium. So, what I like to do over these 15-minute segments is to go through what I think God is signaling. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to deal with the macro versus the micro view. Okay, I think this is a huge weakness in the American Christian churches, and I guess my reference is primarily the evangelical churches, since we kind of we're not familiar with the prophetic and we tend to ignore the prophetic. I believe we don't know God's signals. So what that means is I think we don't know how to pray really effectively because we're unsure. But we shouldn't be unsure, you guys. Doesn't the Bible say if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us? But yet I think Christians are really kind of confused about God's will in the midst of Trump, in the midst of the pandemic, in the midst of all that's gone on in the last 10 years, that there's a lot of confusion and a lot of division. Okay, I think it's been intentional. I believe it's been prophesied. And I believe there's a purpose in it. And God has been signaling. And I want to help pass on what I understand about this, about that signaling. You may not agree, okay? But I'm telling you that it's been a tremendous encouragement to me. And I don't have a doom and gloom expectation of the future or a rapture to get out of it, to get rescued out of it. I think we need a rescue from evildoers. And I think that's part of the plan. So this is my introduction about myself and this YouTube channel, and the topic that is most on my heart that I would like to tell people about. And for those that have eyes to hear, eyes to see, and ears to hear, so be it. They'll receive it. And if you don't, maybe it'll just be a seed, or you may just disagree with it. Okay, that's fine. And so I'm going to go through this topic, and it's a macro view, not a micro view. You can get lost in the weeds of details. What really happened at Charlie Kirk, his murder, or what really happened over here in the Ukraine, or do you understand what I mean? That's micro stuff. I don't specialize in the micro because there's in a lot of ways it's super hard to know what's right or wrong or what's truth. But on the macro level, that's, in my opinion, very helpful to myself personally. I want to pass it on to you. So that's what I'm going to do. Welcome to this beginning YouTube channel effort on my part. And I hope it helps you. I hope it blesses you. And I think if you really catch it, it'll make you hopeful about the future. Okay. And not confused, not scared, not fearful, but hopeful. And that's my goal. So welcome to my YouTube channel.